Right, this morning, standing start in front of the mat. Just move that around a little bit, otherwise I'll bump my head. So just taking a couple of minutes in mountain pose, your version of that. A little softness in the knees, spreading of the toes, a little wriggling forwards and backwards in the feet, maybe from side to side as well. Turning the palms forwards. And we're just going to put a little tiny tilt in the pelvis. So we want the tailbone to go down and the pelvis to tilt back a little bit, so that we've got a chance to lengthen out those hip flexors just a fraction as we're standing. Take some of the compression out of the lower back as well. That just generally helps us lift up, makes things feel a little freer, more spacious, and easier to breathe into. I'm just scanning around the body, seeing how it feels. And having allowed the breath to soften a little bit. Bring the hands in towards the heart. And start to hinge forwards, just softening the knees, feeling out those back and leg muscles, bringing the fingers down to the floor. So the first one, I always put quite an exaggerated bend into the back of the knee. Not really too sure, how the spine is going to feel and how those muscles are going to stretch. So always take it on the soft side. And then we'll bring the hand up onto the shins and lift halfway. Let the legs open out a little bit more. Try to keep the weight even through the whole of the foot rather than dumping into the heels. And taking a couple of breaths here, just progressively drawing the belly in and up and back in. And then exhale again forwards. Come back up onto the shins. Slowly down. Onto the shins again. Hands onto the hips this time. The body forwards, ourselves lift. Bring the hands in towards the heart. And exhale down to the floor. Hands onto the hips. Knees and soft. Keep the back long. Chest open. Hands into the heart. We come down for final time. We'll just change the next time we come back up. Hands onto the hips. Lift up. Bring hands in towards the heart. And this time we'll watch the hands as we take them to the sky and gently in towards the back of the mat. Back bend. Bring your hands through your heart. Hinge at the hips. Soften the knees. Let the air out of the lungs. Hands into the hips. Bend them forwards to the heart. We'll take the back bend again. On an exhale. And towards the heart as we bring the breath in. And exhale over the hips. Hands onto the heart. All the hips, your choice to lift. And taking the back bend again. Down to the floor. I'll work a little harder into the back. We'll take the arms out wide this time from the ground. It's like a reverse dive, swan dive. And take the hands towards the sky, arms together, hands into the heart, and exhale down. Let the arms wide again, just adjusting, playing with the balance in the feet, trying to keep the weight even. So again, just checking you're not letting all the weight come into the heels. Trying to keep the sole of the foot flat to the floor. All the way up, last time. Hands into the heart. Floating down. Take a breath. And then step it back into your down dog. Just checking your hands are flat. Put those fingers out nice and wide. Roll those armpits a little towards the ground. Have the feet a distance apart. Heels away from the floor so you can press the heels towards the back of the mat rather than down. So lifting the hips high. As we do this, getting a nice deep stretch into the back of the calves and around the Achilles, into that area of plantar fascia that we get. And we'll slowly come forwards into a plank. Now, rather than letting ourselves collapse into a plank, we want to press away a little bit, keep the hips high, strong legs press out. The quadriceps to engage as you press out through those heels. Press the floor away, you'll feel your abs turn on a little bit more as well. And stretching the shoulders out wide, so the distance between the shoulder blades increases as you press down. Let's get a start rounding across the shoulders. And then we can let the knees come back down to the floor. So we're going to bring those directly underneath the hips. Take a little time to plant them. Boot laces down. And we'll move into cat-cow, just drawing the chest forwards. Taking a little breath. Round the spine. Let's start small. Just let the spine have a chance to wake up and then let it build naturally. Come back into neutral spine. Take the knees wide, toes together. It's going to move into child's pose. See how those hips feel, knees and ankles. Kind of wriggling around a little bit through the spine just to keep the shoulders free. And they're a little bit tight this morning, so if you can see me wriggling around, that's the reason for it. Let's take this into the side bend and take it out to the right side first of all. Feel the breath draw into the side of your body and the ribs open on that side of your body. We'll look towards the hands and move them across the opposite side. Try and keep the hands at least shoulder distance apart, but probably more important, the hands are directly over the shoulders rather than pulling the hands around to the side too much. We want to just keep everything on top of each other and lining up nicely. So the stretch is coming from the spine into that side bend. Just a couple more breaths here. And we'll bring ourselves back slowly into the center. And let ourselves lift up. Just bring the knees back underneath, toes under, and into down dog. Now I'm going to take the right foot up to the sky and scissor that. I'm going to keep the hips square to the ground and the shoulders, so the arms are got an even amount of weight going through. Just straightening the leg out, pointing the toes. And bring that foot carefully to the floor. And we'll transfer the weight. Lift the other leg. And bring that foot to the floor. Allow ourselves to come into a plank. We'll lower the knees back down to the ground again. And take a little breath. We're going to tuck the toes of the right foot underneath and slide that foot to the back of the mat. And we're going to come into a baby side plank. So I'm going to bring the left hand in line with the left knee and then pivot on the left knee, take the left foot out to the side of the mat as I drop my right heel to the floor. I'm going to press the hips towards the right to bring them back towards the center line. And allow myself to slowly lift that right hand up. Let myself breathe easily. I'll bring the hand back down to the floor. Bring myself back onto all fours. Tuck the toe of the left leg underneath, lengthen the leg out. Just the right hand in. Pivot the right foot out to the side. Drop the heel in. Press the hips towards the left, the chest. I'm trying to get a sense of an even amount of weight through that rear foot, the knee, and the hand. So all three are pressing into the floor, taking some weight. And bringing the hand gently down to the floor. Back into all fours. I'm going to tuck the toe of the right foot underneath again, slide that leg back. This time we're going to tuck the toe of the left foot, send that back as well. And we're coming into the slightly higher version of the side plank, opening up to the right. Strong legs pressing down. Hands back to the floor. Stay in the high plank. Roll the feet gently to the opposite side. Bring your hands down. Take a little breath and we'll walk slowly into the back of the mat. Just walking the hands in towards the feet. Those legs will feel a little bit more open. Bring the hands onto the hips. And let ourselves lift up. Set the arms out wide as we breathe in. And towards the heart. Then exhale down to the floor. just onto the fingertips. Make sure your feet are hip distance apart and parallel. Soften the knees deep. Kind of come into chair pose. So taking the hands forwards. And then lifting the body about halfway, but trying to keep the hips as low as they were as we got into that pose. So body kind of 45 degrees to the floor. And then we'll bring the hands back down to the ground. Legs up, send the hips to the sky. Put the fingers into the front of the mat again. Just transitioning through your down dog into plank, knees to the ground. Take a little breath. Go tuck the toes underneath. And sit back down into chair, keeping the knees fairly close. And then we'll press into the shins to lift up. Toes tucked under. Knees lift up and back into our down dog. We'll come forwards into plank. Lower the knees. Just release the toes. Back onto the heels. Get to the ground. Press into the floor on the exhale with those shins. Make sure to inhale as you come into neutral. And then exhale, scoop towards the back of the mat into that down dog. Float forwards, shoulders over wrists, knees to the floor, untuck toes, sit back down. So we've got another minute of this, just working our way through. Remember, it's a high plank, moving the shoulders slowly over the wrists so they get a nice workout. Another 30 seconds to go. Simon down dog. We'll draw the right knee in towards the chest and bring the foot through into lunge, front of the mat, and just let the back knee down onto the floor. Good, untuck the toes again. Let the hands come alongside the body. Float the arms forwards in line with the torso. Draw the belly and send your tailbone down to the floor to lift high. Make some fists. Draw the elbows out to the side. Lift the chest a little. Exhale. Release the hands. Take them to the sky again. Down to the floor. Step it back. That down dog. We'll draw the left knee in. Bring the foot through. Drop the back leg down onto the ground. Hands alongside the body. Float forwards. Belly in. Fists. Extend the chest to the sky. Hands to the floor and back down into that down dog. Right knee into the chest. Foot through for the lunge. Knee down. Hands alongside. Getting the hang of this now. Using an exhale. Inhale. Exhale out the chest. Inhale to the sky. Down to the floor. into dog. Left leg through, into the ground. One more minute to go. We'll step it back. Down dog. Walk those hands towards the toes. Forward bend at the back of the mat. Hands onto the hips. Let yourself lift up. Shake it all out. Take a slow walk into the front of the mat. We'll have a bit of a sun salutation. Hands into the heart. Breath in. Nice to exhale out. And as we commence the next exhale, we come down to the floor. And we'll take the right foot back, lunge and drop the heel in. Bring the hands onto the front side and lift up. Open up into a warrior two. And we'll continue to take the hands high and then rotate out towards the front of the mat. Bring the hands down. Step back into our down dog. Come forwards into a plank. We'll take half plank. Knees to the floor, shins down, boot laces down. Inhale up. And tuck the toes. Lift the knees and the hips. Back into down dog. We'll draw the right knee into the chest. Bring the foot through to the lunge. A couple of breaths here on the fingertips. I'll press off the back twos into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips and lift up. Take the hands high. Towards the heart. And exhale down. Left foot to the back of the mat into lunge and drop the heel. Hands onto that front side and lift. Open ourselves into our warrior. Float the arms high. Rotate towards the front of the mat. Fingers come down. Take a little breath. Step it back into dog. Come forwards into plank. Half plank. Elbows into the ribs. Knees to the floor. Boot laces down. Press into the shins a little. Keep the belly drawn in. Tuck the toes. And then lift everything back up into down dog. Left knee comes into the chest. We for the lunge. Again, we hold strong back leg. Just lifting on the fingertips, letting the shoulders be away from the ears. The chest is lifted, belly drawn in a little. And then we push off the toes into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips, and lift. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. So we're going to take a chair pose again. So we're going to slide down to the floor. Make sure we're happy with our feet position. Soften the knees deep so the ribs and thighs are touching. And then start to take the hands away from the ground, out in line with the body. And then try and lift the body halfway up. So the bum stays more or less the same place. These are quite deep chairs. Try and keep the feet parallel. And the knees the same distance apart as your feet. And then we'll bring the hands to the floor. Open those legs up high towards the sky. Drawing the belly in. So that's going to be the biggest forward bend of the day. For this morning's class, we'll step back into dog. Knees to the floor and pivoting on the knees. Feet to the side. They'll roll gently back. And allow ourselves to use a block under the back of the head, back of the mat. You're going to make sure there's enough room behind you to lengthen your arms out. Just check there's nothing behind you, and give yourself a little chance to adjust your clothing. Rise up a little bit. So we'll have the feet close in towards the body. Draw breath, and we're going to draw belly button down towards the ground. Just lift one knee at a time over the hips, and slowly extend toes towards the sky. Get the hands directly out in front of the chest, palms facing in, and let the shoulders rest down into the floor a little bit. So we're still trying to hold that lower back down into the ground. We're going to alternate legs and arms. So first of all, try and get the legs very straight, pointy toes. And we'll take our right arm, left leg. We try not to bounce into the floor. And bring it back. Obviously, can't actually see where the floor is, so sometimes you want to bounce the odd one around, but you don't want to be using it as a rest. I'm going to keep the muscles engaged and working. To be honest, if your foot is still 6 inches away from the ground, that's perfectly fine because you're keeping the muscles engaged. And that's what we're looking for. Nice slow movements. Try and keep both legs straight. One second. We'll come back, knees in towards the body, chin in towards the chest. Give ourselves a little bit of a hug. Now let the feet to the floor. I'm going to take the block out from behind the back of the head, so a little flatter this time. And I'm going to bring the hands alongside the body. I'm going to place the palm down and slightly underneath the cheeks, so that the shoulders are really right underneath. A little bit up, almost starting to sit on the back of the wrists a touch. And draw the lower spine down to the floor. Press those shoulders down. Draw the knees up above the hips, and then extend the legs towards the sky. I'm going to come down about halfway. So legs straight, toes pointing. As your toes disappear out of your peripheral vision, you start to bring the legs back again. And try to bring them directly over your hips. And then lengthen out again. So it's a double leg You can lengthen out through the legs and squeeze the thighs together a little bit as she helps. You're probably not going to believe that at this point. Try and keep the neck nice and long. Shoulders pressing down into the floor just a little bit all the while through. I'm not really sure if the moving the legs in a controlled manner or try to keep the legs long and straight is more difficult. Can't quite work out which is the more challenging of the two. But definitely both challenging, that's for sure. We'll come down for the last one. And loosen that back up. Draw the knees in. And we'll take another wrap of the arms around. And I'm just going to roll gently onto my right side, use the hands to press onto the floor to come up to sitting. And I'm going to take the block and place that underneath my bottom. The sitting tool, just going to wriggle the flesh out a little bit in the cheeks and allow myself to rock into the front edge of the sitting bones, flexing the toes back, hands alongside the body. We come into Janushirshasana, so bringing the right heel into the groin and knee out to the floor. Rotating that inner thigh in a little bit on the long leg and putting a little bend in the knee. Hands onto the shin. I'm going to keep the hands on top of each other. And as I start to lean forwards, I'm just going to turn the fingers out so the elbows go out, the hands kind of follow, and eventually the fingers are pointing towards the elbows. The elbows are out nice and wide. Just drawing myself forwards. So I'm trying to stretch the shoulders out wide. So with the elbows out wide, it's a little bit easier to encourage them to do that. And then we'll release. We'll bring ourselves up. We'll move into the second side. So just bringing the foot in, just pressing that lightly into the thigh, squaring the leg, little bend. Hands again on top of each other. Foot is flexed towards me. Lean forwards, elbows out wide. Fingers pointing to the elbows. Chest is lifting forwards a little bit, pressing the shin into the ground a fraction as well. Let ourselves lift up from there as well. Taking the legs out again. I'm going to take the right foot underneath and out towards the left hip. Pointing forwards, just a little twist. So bring that left foot across. So the right hand comes in between the chest and the thigh. And turn the body towards the left, looking over the rear shoulder. Try to keep both sitting bones attached to the block. Flat foot pressing down lightly into the floor on this front leg with the knee high. Release from there. We'll just move that into the second side. Just tilting the pelvis forwards a little bit to help the spine lengthen out. So it's easier to just rotate around the axis if the pelvis is closer to neutral. And then release. I'm going to take the legs forwards again and scoot a little bit more in towards the front of the mat. I'm going to move the block out to the side. And lay the spine down onto the floor. I'm going to keep the heels in towards bottom for bridge pose. So I'm taking them about hip distance apart. And then just rocking the shoulders underneath a little bit. Palms are facing down. And then on the exhale, we're just going to flow through this. I'm going to tuck the tailbone away. Start to press into the feet. Let the hips lift. Draw the knees forwards. Press the back of the arms into the ground. Take a breath at the top. And then on the exhale, use that breath to roll the spine back down to the floor. Take a breath at the bottom. Use the exhale to tuck the tailbone away and lift it up. Breath at the top. Roll it back down again. So these don't have to be the world's biggest bridge poses you've ever done. What we're looking for is nice, consistent, smooth lift, following your breath. So you might naturally find that your body sort of coordinates and the muscles will start to understand how they're playing with each other, and it becomes easier to lift a little higher without having to really kind of force the issue. It just develops in the body and becomes a natural occurrence. And if that's not happening, if your muscles are starting to feel a little bit tired from the rest of the class we've already done, then you might find you're going the other way and getting a bit lower. But wherever you are, just try to enjoy a slow, smooth movement and keeping the hips stable as you can. So you're able to press through both legs evenly, fire them up together. If the legs get tired, one of the kind of telltale signs is a little bit of swaying from side to side and not being able to press into the legs and fire them in a uniformed way. That's the first kind of inklings of fatigue. We've got another 30 seconds or so. So maybe one or two more lifts. Now on the speed of your breath. As you come down, take the block, just place that behind the back of the head again. Allow myself to just wiggle the toes and heels into the center line, keeping the knees high. I'm going to bring right knee in towards the body and take the hands around the back of the thigh. Just going to slowly extend that leg up towards the sky. And see if we can slide the opposite heel out along the floor. So 2 straight legs pressing out through heels. I'll bring the feet and slide them back in. The left leg comes in, and low and interlace around the back of the thigh. I press the thigh into the hands. The leg is pushing away almost a little bit as the heel lifts. And depending on how long your arms and your body lengths are, etc., just slowly lengthen out through the right leg as well. You might find that your foot isn't really above your hip. It could be further away. Or if your arms are indeed a little short, you might find that your leg is more towards you than over your hip. So just working with your body. We're trying to keep that clench fingers wrap around the back of the thigh. The knuckles interlocking, lengthening out both legs at the same time. And bring the feet back down to the floor. Scoot the legs in. Give yourselves one more hug. So chin in towards the chest, wrap the arms around. A little squeezy. And relax the feet to the floor. Put the arms out ready for Shavasana and slide the heels out to the corner edges of the mat. Toes relax out. Soften the jaw. Move those shoulders and hips underneath you. It all feels like it's lengthened out. And then just release. Begin to wiggle the fingers and toes. And wrists and ankles begin to move. Connect the body back up. And take a stretch. Any direction that feels good. Slide the heels in. All the knees towards you. A very soft hug. And then roll onto our right side, slowly on an exhale. Chest rolled over as well. Taking a breath in, using the hands to press into the side of the mat and down. We lift ourselves slowly and gently back up. Tall. In the seated position, we bring the hands to the heart, the eyes closed. Breath in. Slow exhalation. Letting the chin drop and the belly draw to the spine. Simply bowing to the floor to seal our practice. Inhale, lifting up with the breath. The left side's open. Namaste. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day. See you again on the mat soon.